Department up, and we'll kick off with Fire Administration 4220.10. And I will, while they're coming up and getting situated, I do want to let people watching at home know that if you're interested in finding the budget that we're using, the draft proposed budget, it is on the town website and will soon be on the Budget Committee portal. There's an opportunity to see that live document in action. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, you might have to move it over to the next slide there. There we go. All right, 422010.
So we did followed the same format we followed last year. Anything that was net neutral, we left off. Anything that was an increase, we put anything that was a cost offset or reduction is on for visibility. Just a note with regards, so we're in the default budget. From the default budget to what's proposed this year, the total will be $135,008, which represents 16.7%. The increase, had we have what we had proposed for 2025, put it up there just informationally. Had the budget have passed last year, we would be up about 3.1%. So because we hit the default, for 2025, our 2026 numbers just are bigger. The cost of things just are going up. So what I did was I broke it down. There's two slides that represent the fire department. The first one is wages. The second one is what I call the main budget. It's the rest of the line items in the budget, but we can start here. So with regards to 110, those are just, that number represents the raises from this year and for 2026, the adjustments that will be made in 110 contractually for the fire chief. With regards to full-time, full-time costs are up. We have, we made a cost offset to that in training because last year we had brought in a higher level firefighter, better trained, and there was a difference between where we were with the first gentleman that we hired and where we are with the second gentleman. So basically to cost offset that, we were able to reduce our training budget to make up for that. The rest is just, it's 2 years of raises. Excuse me. The call line item is up. It looks like a larger number, but it's really not. If you look at the overall budget, the $135,000 increase is mostly here in wages, with the cost offsets here. With regards to the calls, that's up. If you break it down, what's underneath that, it's up because the number of calls has been consistently going up for the fire department. We're expecting 950 calls in 2026. Our average turnout is about 4 firefighters now over the course of this year. Excuse me, we were able to get, we had more people join the department. We've got a better turnout for a lot of the calls that we're getting. The average is 4. So with the calls going up and the average number of responders we have going up by 1, that accounted for about 20, excuse me, about 25,000 of the 96. The other part of it is, so 47,000 of that number is a carryover from the third man coverage. So the third man coverage went to warrant article, got approved. It has to go in next year's budget now. It'll go in under the 120 line item, and that represents about 47,000 or so dollars of that number.
Just a clarifying question on that. So if I heard you correctly, 47,000 of the 96 is from the warrant article.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Couldn't some of that money be used to pay for some of the additional firefighter calls? Isn't that the whole point of that fund? To have more on-call people?
So,
Still have to pay them, so yeah.
Right, but I'm saying though, but if we're increasing the billing on the calls, and we have a fund set aside for additional per diems, then why aren't we using the per diem to help offset?
You are, but the problem is your per diems are here during the daytime. A lot of their calls are not, from 8 to 4, there's a significant amount of work, but most of the calls that he's getting in call department responding to is after hours. The per
After
diems are
hours
getting-
weekends or after hour weeknights? Because
After
we
hours
approved
weeknights.
a weekend coverage.
During the day.
During the day.
So everything
day.
during the day is covered, everything from 4 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock the following morning is strictly the
And
on-call.
a lot of these are medical calls, I assume,
Yeah.
correct? Do we, I,
It's a mix, so just for
Percentage is-
instance,
percentage is higher,
for
yeah.
instance, for September that we just left, we had 84 calls. Out of the 84 calls, I think 42 were medical, 6 or 7 were mutual aid calls, and then we had alarm activations, we've had, because we're in all hazards departments, we had water problems.
so are we paying our people to respond to other towns' work?
Yes,
And we're
that's
getting a
it.
similar
That's an
return?
industry standard
Yeah.
nationwide.
But,
And
but are
we've
we, I guess what my question would be, are we getting,
We don't get
Equal-
compensated, we get returned when
Well, I think,
when we call for
are we getting
mutual
a
aid.
fair deal? Like,
Yeah,
if
so-
we-
Similar return.
Yeah.
so here's what happens on a typical call, and I think Chief will elaborate on it too. When a call comes up for, say, a fire alarm activation, our truck goes first, but what happens from a general response is they send other outside trucks to help back up in case,
Okay.
if it's a real fire, they have the labor and manpower. Every fire has to have manpower, so they bring
Right.
it back in. So yeah, we get a fair and
So,
equitable.
so just to
support
give
there.
you a perspective, we're averaging 4 people going to a call. For any residential house fire, just a residential, we're not talking high school or anything else, minimum of 17 to 23 people, you need to have firefighters on scene to do all the different job functions required for a residential house fire. Even if we had all our call people and they happen to be in town at the same time, chances are we're not gonna be able to have that. So that's why,
but those aren't gonna be a month, hope God, God willing, aren't gonna be a monthly event. So the question is, like, if I'm paying a good chunk of money to help support other towns, are we receiving, like,
yes.
similar
Well-
in-kind quantity amount of?
What I heard you say, based on the numbers, was a residential call could have somewhere around 20 firefighters,
For a
Correct.
fire.
of which Litchfield is providing about a quarter of that.
So it's hard to say because we're a call department. So unfortunately, we're not a full-time 24/7 department. So the thing is, I could have 3 people, I could have 10 people. I have no idea.
But the majority are likely coming from other towns.
so, yes.
Yes.
And in a good, just a good place, Mark. So, we had a fire, on Natticook just a little while back. And for us, we had a few pieces of our apparatus got on the road. I think I had 6 or 7 of our Litchfield staff turn out. The rest, I had Londonderry, I had Hudson, I had Merrimack, I had Manchester. So in any case where, we put out the call for mutual aid, we are getting that reciprocating response from our surrounding towns. That's all part of the mutual aid agreement that we
So
have.
it sounds like the answer to your question is,
In theory, again, it's in theory, but I mean, like, how many calls do we have that really warrant?
So Carrie, you're looking,
Yes,
you have blinders on because you're looking at fires. That's all you're looking at is fires.
I'm looking at hours, so I'm like, if I'm paying, so we say 950 calls, 4 firefighters per call, how many of those are actually servicing Litchfield residents? Are we getting in-kind service from other towns? So if I spend 950 calls, 4 firefighters, that's what, almost 4,000 hours? Or more, 8,000 if you figure it's 2 hours.
You're getting that 2 or 3-fold because when Londonderry comes, they're coming with 3 or 4 guys on a truck. When Hudson comes, so we just had 2 days ago, they went to the high school for an order of something burning in the building. And we had a Hudson engine, a Hudson ladder with people that came for that to augment our people because we have to treat that as a building fire until we can identify what the problem is and mitigate it.
No, and I hear you, and I totally get it. Again, I have a degree in fire. I totally respect everything you do. My dad was a firefighter. I'm also looking at a $500,000 difference between a proposed budget and a default budget. So how do we make sure that you get what you need without voters feeling they have no choice but to vote for the lower number that screws us all? So how do we balance everyone's needs?
I will tell you, after doing some research for some other stuff, that we are the most cost-effective fire department probably in the state of New Hampshire, hands down, with what we charge and what we have done over the course of the years to improve service to the community without raising the taxes.
Is there an ability
By
to
much.
tap into like insurance? Like if we got increased medical calls, do we, obviously we pay property taxes for the services, but do we also, like, but our property taxes don't necessarily cover ambulances, like those get billed to the person. Do we tap into an opportunity to get some revenue in that way?
So we just actually worked out something with the town of Hudson that we just actually, the Board of Selectmen just signed, September 30th. We were having an issue where during the day Hudson wasn't providing what they're supposed to with a paramedic all the time. And we were sending our paramedic to the hospital with them. But they, because you're going to the hospital and you're receiving paramedic care, it doesn't matter if it's coming from Litchfield or from Hudson, when you go to the hospital, you're being charged for ALS, for paramedic services.
Right.
But if our person is giving the care, we weren't reaping any benefit from that. So we went back to Hudson and said, we need to make an addendum to our contract because you're not fulfilling it by providing a paramedic all the time. We were able to work it out where we're using what they call a paramedic intercept, where if Hudson can't provide us a paramedic on a call that we have to have, and I send one of our paramedics to the hospital, which we currently have 11 paramedics on the department, then they will take $500 off each occurrence at the end of the billing cycle. So now we're actually going to get a little bit back for what we're doing.
I think the challenge is that you don't know how many calls you're gonna have, so you're looking at the trends, and that's what you're building the budget on. It can go shorter, it can go more than 900+ calls next year. We have to have firefighters that respond, we have to pay the firefighters. And I don't,
No, and I hear you, but I mean, what happens if we start seeing 10 people per call? Do we at some point say, we have met our needs? Like, how do we factor that in?
well, this is the other challenge you have with the call department. If you make a call out and you only get 4, that's great, because 4 is kind of the minimum to get on the truck and go. But in the same instance, that call turns into something more disastrous, and no one else shows up, that's a problem. But if they're showing up and they're in the station, they're ready to respond. So, and you have to take what you can get from
We
the call
actually don't
department.
have that issue, Kerry.
Okay.
So 20, 30 years ago, our call department, we were getting an average of 10 to 16 people on a medical call. We don't get that anymore. We're lucky to get 2 or the 4 that we're getting. And we're getting a lot of simultaneous and back-to-back calls where you actually need those extra people to handle a second medical emergency. And we actually had it, I don't know, 2 months ago, where both of our full-time paramedics were transporting to 2 opposite hospitals with Hudson because they were 2 critical care calls, which we were giving a great service to our, to our residents. But we were fortunate enough that we had a couple call people come in to still cover the town if another call came in while they were gone.
And with
Yeah, I would
the-
think you would benefit from that, right? If a truck goes out, let's say it's a medical call, and 2 people go out on the medical call, but 2 people come to the station and they hang out till the medical call comes back, there's a benefit there because the next call gets responded to quicker. But additionally, when the truck comes back, they can help clean up the truck and get ready for the next call and get out of the station. So in some ways, you are kind of blending, it's
And
probably a
like-
savings. in
Right,
one
and
way
like
to
this,
go.
so it's hard to tell you because we have no crystal ball to tell you what type of calls coming in. We had a car accident this afternoon. For some reason, at 3:45 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon is
That's
when our
awful.
calls come in. They went out for a car accident. So the day crew went out on the first engine, but on a car accident, we send 2 pieces. We send the rescue truck for extrication equipment and for, cleanup materials, and we send the engine. And we were lucky enough, because that's our twilight hour of when
Right.
people are coming back into town, that we had people to take the second truck. So we're very fortunate that So far, knock on wood, on the bigger calls that we've had, we've either had enough people or we have to rely on the mutual aid. But it's no different than Londonderry calling us. Like I said, last month, we went mutual aid 6 times, but we've also had mutual aid in town probably at least 4 or 5 times ourselves, just for different things.
Yeah.
So it's a wash.
Just to add, with regards to, what happens if it's 10? What happens to the budget then? It would be a good problem for us to have to manage, but, for years, it's been 3 or 4. So, back to when Chief Raitzel was here, he used the average of 4. When he took over, we had 4. When we changed, when Chief Raitzel left and Chief Nickel took over, we got the opportunity to rebuild some of the department, and I had to change it back to 4. That's a good problem to have, but yeah, it's something that we do monitor, and it should get from a day where, we're getting, in some calls we get 11 guys, some calls we get 2 guys, right? But if it becomes a problem financially for us and seems to grow much larger than our average 3 or 4, it's something that I'm sure that the chief will address in the way that we manage the call staff. But it's a very difficult thing to manage because you don't know who's around, and we can't say, if we thought over the years about splitting things up different ways, but at the end of the day, it always comes back to the same thing. There's no requirement for a call firefighter to respond.
Right.
And they do, which is great, but not everybody's in town all the time.
No, absolutely.
Early, late, whatever, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not valuable. My concern is where we are if,
100%.
So I think I got us off track there by asking the question. So I'll let you guys finish your
Go ahead.
slides, and then we'll hold any other questions till you all are finished. So.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's good to talk through it. Just don't want to take up too much of the board's time. With regards to the fire inspector number, that's just 2 years of increases. And the full-time overtime number is the same. It's just pay increases and standard overtime that we've always had. But because, merit increases come, make a little more, we pay a little bit more at the bottom line. Cost offsets that we were able to do was around training. So we reduced our trainings from 3 hours to 2 hours. 90% of the time, sometimes we'll have to do operational training under 3 hours. But overall, we cut back the training hours to offset some of those numbers.
Is there any concern about that?
From a safety perspective,
Yeah.
there's not.
Okay.
We're able, so because we do the operation stuff, we're pretty much, I don't wanna speak for the chief, but I haven't seen any.
Okay.
Because we're still accomplishing the same trainings.
Right.
We've reduced some of the hours for some of the trainings that, like we do a longer classroom first, and then maybe
Right, so we were doing 2 trainings a month. And what we've been doing now is we've been doing 1 training a month, and then if there's something that needs more time, then what we'll do is we'll do 1 and combine the 2. 1 training to get 1 quality training out of
Yeah,
it.
so that's very important, right? It's very important, to both the chief and I to make sure that
Right.
we're all safe on the fire scenes, and more importantly, that, our staff is well-trained. And we've been, I think we're probably better trained every year than the previous year, because of the supplemental staff we have with per diem firefighters coming in who are full-time in other places. They bring suggestions and augmentations to the training that, is something, hey, we're doing this in Manchester, we're doing this in Hudson, that we may be doing something different, and we get that opportunity to look at it and say, yeah, that makes sense, or yeah, we can gain efficiency there. So it's been pretty
Awesome.
consistently going up to the right.
No, that's awesome. I get nervous when I say cut in training, but if you're on board with it, then
Yeah,
good job.
yeah, we're good. I wouldn't want to cut it anymore, but, so and this is what I call the main budget side, it's just an increase across all of the categories. Net neutrals aren't here, same as the other side. Very modest increase across some of the categories. So I'll kind of go through them. All the insurance stuff I captured, though I think that you might have a separate conversation around health insurance. I put it in there anyway, just based on what we know, through our conversations with people. Software contracts is up. Last year, we needed to get a reporting module for Temsys. We used to have Firehouse software. We used to pay for Firehouse software. We now use Temsys. Temsys, when they first released it, is free. They have some advanced reporting stuff in there to give us better demographics around reporting. So we were gonna buy it last year. We actually held off on spending the money because we went to default, but we'd like to be able to get that this year.
Is that an annual expense or a one-time?
I think it's just a one-time expense.
Yeah, one time.
Yeah. So that'll just show up this year, and then that number should go back down, unless we find new stuff to buy. Just kidding, kidding. Dispatch is contractual. The cost per call in our contract raises incrementally annually over the contract. The instructor services is actually just a move. So that moved, we used to have instructor services under 811, and what we did was we took that, and it didn't make sense to keep it there. It made sense to move it up with instructor services, because that's like your Fire 1 certification, Fire 2 certs, AMT certs, that sort of stuff. So we moved it up. And you should, if you look at the cost offset, you should see a reciprocating $6,900 in 811. But we don't see that because that went up $2,100, just because of the cost of the seminars have gone up, and the travel to those, but still at the end of the day, not a tremendous increase there. And this year, we changed, again, being mindful of the default, the chief decided that some of the training we were gonna need, the seminars we held off on, so that'll should end up coming up under on that category. The electricity, it's gone up. It's, water, the utilities are tough. We can't do much around it. Minimal increases in the water. Dues and subscriptions, some of the dues and subscriptions we have gone up. Not much, but that represents about a half dozen or 8 subscriptions that we have. And with regards to protective gear, that's a big up. So protective gear went up simply because the cost of gear went up about $1,000 a set, maybe a little bit more.
And the reason for that is because of the PFAs. Fire gear was always made with PFAs for the water repellency and whatnot. And now that there's a nationwide thing about PFAs, they had to change the construction of fire gear, which increased the cost.
So not much control there, but we still need to replace this so that we don't end up behind and have a 2X spend. It's important we keep replacing the 4 or 5 sets of gear that we do every year. So we're on a rotation, so the stuff that's hitting the 10 years is being rotated out. That's really all it's good for, and then we have to rotate in new gear.
And that's a requirement too. Like if I send somebody to the fire academy and their gear is 10 years, can't use it.
Yeah, and it goes back to a safety thing too. At 10 years, these things are pretty.
Well, it sounds like we need to rotate out the PFA and, stuff anyway, so.
Yeah, true.
So quick question on protective gear. You're asking for 6,100 more next year, yet this year you've spent $187 on a $22,000 budget.
Yeah, no, that's actually just, I think that information's a little behind. We just got our gear in, so we won't pay until we receive the gear. There's been a PO out there, I think, for
Spring, I think, right?
is what it came through.
Realistically, it's just a
Should
function
be.
of the report. There should be a committed column.
Yeah, there should be an encumbered column that has a encumbrance on it.
So that money has been.
How much is that PO?
20,380.
Okay, thank you.
So, and again, it's the same number of sets of gear. It's the 5 sets that we replace annually. But the cost of each of the sets has gone up. That's what $6,100 is. Medical supplies is up. Number of calls go up. Number of medicals go up. the equipment that we're using at the medical calls, we have to replace. We are very diligent about when we can replacing equipment, in medications, or the ambulance when it comes, but in some cases, we can't. And then the cost offsets, we have about $8,600 in cost offsets. Employment screening's down, we were able to save some money there, they're cheaper. Heating is down, fuel went down, that was actually an up, but because of some creative negotiations that the town made on behalf of the departments, we were able to save some money there. Equipment leases, I believe, is that move. It's not in our budget anymore, so.
Yeah, that was actually a question I was gonna ask, because it looks like that line's zeroed out now, so is
I
that
think that
not?
goes to IT.
I think that's in the IT line.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
It's copy cost, yeah.
And then, the meetings and seminars is,
So it's not really a savings, it's just moved.
It's just moved, yeah.
I've been carrying it for, well, I think it is a savings, I think it was doubled at one point, but, yeah. Not me,
yeah,
I didn't do
I
it.
think we missed pulling it out last year, out of the proposed budget, and default in there, so it's just that adjustment right for 26.
All right, questions on 42-2010, or I should say, additional questions on 42-2010.
Is there any new equipment that is on the verge of aging out that is on the horizon of being replaced?
Yes. So I have in for capital improvements, our air cascade system, which fills our 60 air bottles and air packs. We've had, which we got on a grant probably 20 years ago. We can no longer get parts for it. We're kind of limping it along. And because obviously we have other requests that we need to do, that will be something probably that we'll look to replace next year. The other thing that's going to be coming up is the air packs are only good for 15 years, and those will be 15 years next year. So we might be able to get like an additional year or two out of that, but at some point those will need to all be replaced because they're all compressed air cylinders, and they get hydro tested every 3 years, but because they're made out of carbon fiber, they get dropped and everything, and because they're under 4,500 pounds of pressure, you have to replace them.
Look at the maintenance costs and something like that, chief,
To replace me.
Maintenance or to replace them.
or maintenance or whatever you would
I mean,
recommend.
I'd
You
be
said
giving-
15 years, so I'm assuming replace.
Yeah, I'd be giving you a ballpark, but I would
Yeah.
say you're talking over $200,000 probably to replace those.
Ouch.
Yeah.
What about the air pack system itself,
Yeah.
cost there?
The air cascade system, actually, you know what, I have, I was gonna say, yeah, I have what I gave to the CIP.
There are opportunities for grants for some of this stuff that we will pursue, to reduce our expenses. So unfortunately, I don't think one of them opens until January, but
So the cascade system. All right, bear with me for a second. So the cascade system is about $75,000. And the air packs. Actually, the air packs are $350,000.
That's for that's your whole fleet of air packs.
That's for, that's right. So that's for 26 full air packs, because each seat on each truck has to have an air pack for a person. And then that's also a spare bottle for each air pack.
So given the cost of that, is that something that could be phased, like spread out over a couple of years or 3 years?
It may be able to, I could look into that.
So keeping it to the budget, right, but related is,
Try to get to the chair again.
no, that's all right. So, my question's going, hey, is there an opportunity to use impact fees is where my head's going, but I also know there's an apparatus that's being purchase, and I think there's impact fee considerations for that, which would, I think, deplete the impact fees. So if there's intentions for putting this on CIP and CIPs for impact fees, what's the benefit of using CIP for this as a funding mechanism, and why isn't this being considered for maintenance in your budget?
Right.
That's kind of where my head's going.
And also, I mean, I think I've been very good at, and the department's been very good at trying to find opportunities where we can. We found the opportunity, I mean, through the ARPA, we were able to replace one engine. We also have the rescue truck that we just got a grant for, that we're just waiting for the approval. That should be within the next week. From the Governor's Council, and then we'll be able to replace the rescue truck at a 60% paid through the grant and 30% through us. Also, we will look at getting a grant for both the Cascade system and for the air packs. It's just none of that opens until January. Captain Kelly's worked on that before, and we're working to have everything in line so that once January comes, we can apply for that.
Okay.
So it sounds bad, but we're doing all that we can to try and be as less impactful to the community, but still get the stuff that we need to do our job.
Additional questions on 42-2010?
Question actually for Ms. Kleiner, just around the electricity. As I pull up the link sheet, it says that this is the Eversource proposed in front of the PUC. When are those rates that are put in there as far as estimates for a 12.28% for the first half of the year and a 10.72% increase in the second half of the year, when would those be finalized? And when will we know if that 2928 number is correct? Based on rates.
The electricity numbers in all the budgets have already been updated. So I believe it's in a link. I'll check the link,
okay.
but the electricity numbers in the budget are the correct numbers.
Okay. For next week, could we get the link updated, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Brunel, do you have something?
No, I'd say it is, I was just checking it is an old link to an old document, yeah.
Anything else on 42-2010 tonight?
So I do have one question, and it goes to Mr. Brunel. So it sounds to me like the case is being made that a 16 to 17% increase for fire budget is a immovable object. That is gonna put a big dent as far as in the tax cap. If this one is immovable, as it's been stated, then where does the board think that we should go ahead and cut back in other areas of the budget in order to meet the tax cap, or do you want to just leave it to us to go ahead and make those decisions?
Well, I think we'll have to talk about it on Monday when we start looking at the overall changes we're gonna have to make on Monday due to the healthcare and dental and all those items. I don't know, it'll be a tough conversation. I have not talked to them, I don't know where their head is at as far as what we think we can do. But we've had the conversation where it's the big knobs, we don't have a lot of them, right? And the unfortunate part, as we explained in the fire service, we really can't predict what the call rate is. That's what's driving, and labor's driving the cost in so many cases. We can't predict what that is.
Yep.
We don't know. Maybe we'll be lucky and we drop down from 900 calls to only 400 calls next year. We don't know, right? It's not likely, based on the trends and based on our community changing.
So I'm gonna raise an unpopular discussion. But I mean, is it now a conversation of what services do we need to look at adjusting that we offer?
It could be, yeah. It definitely could be.
Gonna have to
But the
be-
challenge is everything, there's a lot of services that are very minimal as it is.
I understand.
And everybody's got their favorite.
And everybody's got their favorite,
I
and
fully
people,
appreciate
we don't want people to think we're doing it to retaliate or any of those kind of things. We may have to make some really, really tough decisions, but where? I think we talked about it the other day, if I shut the recycling center down and only open it one day a week, I'm not saving a whole lot of money, because my cost of operating it's gonna be the same, I get the same amount of waste coming in, right? And we staff it by predominantly part-time employees who don't get anything else. Do I cut officers? Well, the voters voted on all those officers.
But we haven't staffed
No, but
them, so
like-
people haven't seen them, so realistically.
But realistically, you're right, this top department unfortunately went through a very difficult time, and we're finally getting it back to where it needs to be at, and I think the chief sat here, just like the fire department's doing, is this is what the demands are on the department, and it's what it takes to run the department 7/24, and to
Right.
maintain the levels we have. People do not wanna have one officer running around town by themselves.
So, like I said, I understand what you're saying, that people voted for it, but people haven't seen the impact of that because we haven't actually had it. So if there were reductions made in that area, people may not even notice. So it's one of those, I hear you,
So we cut the SROs, cause that's where we got left, SRO is one filled spot.
that would be a
We
conversation.
redirected, we have an SRO right now fully deployed out there, we pull them back in to do patrol, so we don't have to hire the next two?
That's,
But like, for example,
Those are the questions we have to have, but I
if we were
think
to take a
it's
look
gonna
at it, okay, so I understand as far as the dump is concerned.
Yeah.
That, you know what, there's probably some balance there that, you're right, at some point, too much of a cut ends up not giving you the return that you're looking for. But if I take a look at town clerk, for example, you know what, people do have the option to be able to, you know, they don't have an option to go online and get fire or police help, but they do have the ability to go on and do their registration. I realize that as far as for new vehicles, and there's certain things that have to be done in person, but, you know, and I hate to say it, but perhaps then at that point, maybe the library is something that, you know what, isn't going to have as much staffing and as much capability, but again, if we have to take a look at it and say, we have to stay within the tax cap, theirs is untouchable, theirs is untouchable for public safety.
Yep.
There's areas of, you know, to be honest, nice to have services.
So, just. to
These are
kind of-
need to have services.
So kind of floating to what you talked about with the town clerk's office, if we went online only,
I'm not saying online,
but online only.
because
they
you
pay-
can't.
For the services they can do online only, try to drive people there. Remember, we're taxing the people 3% to do it, right?
Yep.
Because we can't collect, we have to charge the
keep the
transaction
Dropbox
fees.
open.
Right.
As long as I can Dropbox.
And don't forget, so let's say we do all Dropbox, right? Let's say people come in and drop it in and we process it. It still takes a lot of hours for someone to do all that processing. And then dropping it in, then how do we get it back? We drop it in the mill. Now we have increased postage costs because now we gotta mail the stuff back to the people.
Self-enclosed, self-empty.
Okay, but ultimately, there's still a problem. There is a tax cap.
Yeah, I hear you, Scott.
You can sit there and keep telling me like, this isn't gonna work, this isn't gonna work, this isn't gonna work. At some point, I need to hear, I have an idea of something that'll work, or at least say, okay, you know what? That could be a good point, because 16, 17% increases isn't working.
So, we have time on the agenda tonight to talk about tax cap before we resume. I also know the Board of Selectmen is meeting on Monday.
Correct.
And I believe this is on their agenda as well, which will feed into our voting next week. I do think what I'm hearing from Mr. Cutter and Ms. Douglas and Mr. Taylor is it would be helpful before we go into next Thursday at that Board of Selectmen meeting to have some sort of ideas or suggestions to bring to the table next week, as a part of your agenda next week.
I think ideally the board would make the decisions and get it back down to where it needs to be. It's just tough.
Because realistically, no matter what we reduce, they can reallocate.
Well,
Sure.
right, of course, right.
Realistically.
I mean, the question now comes back to if the board delivers a under the tax cap, would the budget committee leave it alone?
I guess the only other consideration on my part would be, okay, but then are there particular warrant articles?
Yeah.
That are necessary that we would need to get your budget under a tax cap in order to be able to vote in support, to at least then give the voters the opportunity
So,
to go ahead and
This is
approve
the
it.
challenge though, right? I think we need to get an operating budget that is doable under the tax cap. The warrant articles, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, the budget committee doesn't have to approve them, just, you can deny them, but we have to sell it to the public. Let the voters make those decisions.
I don't disagree
We're
with
gonna
you
have to
there.
go for the cars. We're not gonna be able to fit the cars in the budget. There's just no way. We're talking about $100,000. I don't know where I could pull $100,000 out of the budget unless another selectman has an idea that hasn't been shared with anybody. I don't see how that happens.
I have ideas. You're not gonna like them.
Go ahead. I'll hear anything.
No, but the big picture, though, has to be a budget that can meet your needs and still pass. So even if we said, we're not gonna touch it, it's under the tax cap, will it still pass?
again, it goes back to, well, you know, if the voters don't accept the budget you folks approve, that's under the tax cap, or just at the tax cap, it's a message back to the town they have to adjust, but then again, you haven't heard from the public what they want us to shut off.
We
Right?
also
Again, I
haven't
don't,
asked. We just say, oh, we got a default
how
budget.
do, the question is, how do you ask? Right?
Advisory warrant articles.
That doesn't resolve this year's budget problem.
No,
it
but if
doesn't.
I,
All right.
but I've been suggesting them for a couple
I
of
think we
years.
can continue
Let's,
this
yeah,
conversation.
let's keep us, let's
Let's
keep
get
us
through this, then we
moving.
can go
Let's
through
keep us moving. All right. We've gone through 42, 20, 10. Emergency management, 42, 90, 10.
So not much in the way of increase there. It's predominantly some savings on the hazmat side, and it's really just certain team equipment that we need to purchase, or we should be purchasing this year.
Didn't we already purchase them?
So last year, the Board of Selectmen found us some money to get going, but the team really doesn't have much equipment. Because we had no money, it's been cut. And then the other issue is, like, there's $200 for hazmat. We have a town emergency generator that is at the high school that is literally falling apart. And it's the town's emergency evacuation center. I am right now working with the business administrator at the school and with the state to see if I can find grant funding for that. But then it still comes down to, it's a 50-50 match. So either the town or the school has to come up with that 50%.
Well, we renovated LMS. Could we expand our emergency services there and use the impact fees to increase our emergency services? I'm just saying, like, so we don't lose them, you know what I'm saying? Let's be creative. And then later we decommission.
But I just want to
CHS.
make it known, because
Or solar.
as
replacement
the
of that.
emergency
No.
management
So
director.
solar, you can't rely on
Just
solar,
no.
don't, because remember, this facility has to be running
Bad
during the
idea.
evening.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Just-
Yeah, how'd that go
I
for
just-
We're gonna have a battery backup.
just
Still
wanna-
has to
Go
be.
ahead, go
running
ahead,
I
Chief.
make it
Go
stated
ahead.
so that you guys are all aware that we have a $175,000 generator that is our sole source for this community for evacuation. And if you look at any of the type of weather that we're having, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're
Dude,
gonna need
I
to
remember
run
being
that.
out without power for a week. I totally feel you. Like,
And the issue that I have is I have no money to fix that generator. It literally is rusting out.
we
And
acquired
that's my
it through
problem.
FEMA.
That's part of the premise of my question is like, why aren't we seeing, I get the tax cap, but like, to me, this is maintenance stuff that should be in budget, right?
Right.
It should be part of the operating budget, and it's up to,
And you guys, and
The
you, and you
collective
guys
us
have a
to
hard
figure that
time,
out.
and that's the hard time that I know you guys have, is you need to get under the budget cap, which is really hard. But in the meantime, something sacrifices, and this is sacrifice.
things like that can't sacrifice.
But it has been. That's the problem.
I think
And that's how we
the
approach
police
the
department
mess.
cruisers are an example of the sacrifices we keep on making to try to make a budget meet.
Also something that shouldn't
I
sacrifice.
agree with you.
Any other questions on 42, 90, 10, emergency management?
Yeah, can you give any specific examples of negative impacts of not having that CERT team equipment yet for another year? And I guess if I take a look at this and I go, $2,400 each year in replacement of a CERT team to take care of a generator, could start keeping that generator a little bit longer. So, I mean, you've gone without the CERT team equipment for this year.
Well, like I said, the Board of Selectmen actually gave us some seed money in order to buy some equipment.
Right.
But we do have some new members, and we've been training the CERT team. The whole idea of having the CERT team is for parades to help offset the fire department for when you have mass power lines down everywhere from a windstorm. We're putting firefighters that we don't really have enough of guarding down power lines, and I can't put a CERT team person out there if they don't have a reflective vest and if they don't have a flashlight, and so that's why we need the money. I don't need to have $2,400 every year, but I haven't gotten it once yet. I got just barely enough money to give them T-shirts and a couple other things to start out. So this would be the money to actually outfit them properly so that we can actually utilize them this winter. God forbid we need them.
Anything else on emergency management? All right, code enforcement, 424120.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you all very
Thank you,
much.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night.
Yes, you too.
Thanks, you
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 424120 code is, looks like it's down by $4,926 from the default.
Yes, so,
Is that mostly just insurance?
so there is a new employee and there was changes in insurance. From the proposed, there was 4.7, decrease in benefits. From the default, there's, because that's 2 years ago when it was totally a different employee, there's a larger decrease, 3.97 in, wages. Everything else is flat.
Questions on code enforcement? Health Department, 4411.10. 441110. Health.
No change from 2025 proposed or default.
Questions on Health Department? All right, everybody's favorite, 4220.90. Fire hydrant.
So, in fire hydrants, you had both the number of hydrants increased due to the new development. So that's gone from about 240 to 280. The big change here from, last year's number to the proposed 515 is the number of Q-Pack, which I think, charges that are expected, and I think I spoke to that a little bit at the beginning of our session. Q-Pack charges are due to refinancing or new financing of debt on Penachuk.
That's
And
the
those are-
$2,900.
So you'll see on each hydrant.
Oh, on,
I
So
would
it's
just
a
love to
total
know
of
how-
42.
I would just love to know how the PUC can authorize their rate, which is 215% of what Manchester charges.
I think the governor's asking the same question these days.
Because the reality is, if Manchester can service a hydrant for $856 and Pennachuck's charging us over $1,800, why don't we just sell to freaking Manchester? I'll pay him $900.
No, it's not that easy of a discussion. So, Monday night, there was a statewide, hearing. And the towns from all over southern New Hampshire, and most of us participated, remotely, but I do believe we had Litchfield representative in the room. It was held in Raymond. So there is universally a large problem across southern New Hampshire as to the amount of water. So there are many towns, Raymond, Chester, Wyndham, those others surrounding us that are now having wells go dry. And there's a large problem with the aquifers underneath these towns drying up. So, what we have is a legislature that is passing all these bills on you must develop, you must develop, you must develop, we all need more housing. True. What we don't have is an infinite supply of water. So, towns are being forced all over the place. They're having developers come with these new projects. They don't want to approve them because they don't believe they have the water available. There hasn't been a great sharing of resources from DES, who has a lot of the data. So we have now kind of embarked in this mission of how do we all get together work with DES to get the right data. And the reason this impacts Pennachuck is because now the state, DES, because of these aquifers drying up, is going to the one source that has water, and that's Pennachuck.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question of why Manchester can do it for less than 900 and Pennachuck is over twice as much inexpensive. How
Because
does the
Manchester
PUC
has its source.
It has its own water source.
Right, but
And
how
now
does the
it's
PUC
holding on
apply-
to its source.
Right, but let me ask, Kim, let me ask you a question. I think I understand the update you provided based on water draw. But these hydrants are sitting static.
Yeah.
And I would rather see Pennachuck charge us when we have an event versus this flat rate they're charging us right now.
They still have to maintain them.
It doesn't cost, it doesn't cost $500,000 to maintain them.
I agree.
You know, and by the way, the hydrants benefit them more than they benefit anybody else, because that's how they use to flush the system. So I think,
But the overall way that the Pennachuck works is Pennachuck comes up with a revenue number that they need to meet, right? So in
Pass
order
it to
to
all of us.
run Pennachuck, and, you know, it has
to do with water.
substantial costs, you know, nice new building in Nashua.
CEO fees.
Yep, and buyouts of the former, and union negotiations and all these costs, and they come up with a revenue number, and then from there the charges get built, and the PUC approves it.
Which, there should be just a way to challenge the PUC, because they should not be approving rates that high when it's demonstrated it can be done for a lot less.
Well, I think,
Carrie, we all agree.
yeah,
I
we all
was
agree.
just
Yeah.
like,
But
we're not
I-
doing anything.
also, let's not forget what the town is trying to do too.
Our
right?
legal
So-
counsel and I sat in PUC meeting after PUC meeting after PUC meeting
And-
for over a year,
Right.
challenging some of these numbers. Ultimately, if the Office of Consumer Affairs, which is state-run, agrees that this is fair to all of these towns, that, by the way, I don't think anyone individually asked us, that's how it gets done. But, and so, all of us now that are in the Pennachuck are getting these same fees. My point for the water is, the problem is going to become, the more towns they go to put on Pennachuck, right?
The more they have.
Is going to be more cost to everybody in the system, right? So if there's new lines in Londonderry, new lines in going to Pelham and going to Wyndham and all the way over to Salem, they will take loans or debt for the cost of all that infrastructure, and that all gets spread out.
So it sounds like
So-
we need to talk to our legislators about having developers be responsible for that cost and not for the users who already have their lines.
And so I think Wyndham's done some great work in that, and I think having this overall broad conversation across southern New Hampshire is the way to go. But Monday was the very first time, and my hat's off to Raymond for putting it together finally. This was the first time I've seen someone actually bring all the towns together to say, hey, what are we gonna do?
I think the other thing is we have to remember, we're playing a game of chess right now. We're waiting for the PUC and Pennachuck to finish their stuff before we can take our next
Which
steps.
they're artificially gonna drive high to try to prevent us.
Understood, yeah.
So I want to
That's the
ask
question
you,
that we actually have control over,
yeah, go ahead.
Instead of
I have one too. Go
barking
ahead.
at the moon. Sorry, Mr. Sun, go ahead, you go first.
Sure.
Yes, as long as it's local.
It is. So I'm looking at the number that's in there, 516, 637. When I look at the attachment, it's 515, 780. There's about $1,000 difference.
That's the Manchester.
No,
Uh,
it's a Pennachuck one. It's highlighted at the bottom, like row 48, column G. 515, 780. It's about $1,000 difference.
Make sure it's the right number being carried. Well,
So I just wanted to make sure that that number that we're seeing in the budget, the 516, 637, is correct.
See the 515, I don't know what you.
Mine says annually 550.
If you open up, 515, 780, yeah, correct.
Yeah, and where's the 516? Excuse me?
In the budget.
In the budget itself.
Yeah, but it's
Oh, you have
including under
515,
Penachuk,
780, and
It's the-
56.
Oh,
Is the
never mind.
Manchester.
I didn't
Yeah.
add in. I didn't add in Manchester. My fault. Never mind. Disregard my question. Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
How much of this $72,000 increase this year is based on new hydrants coming online based on new developments? Approximately.
40
Half of it, 3/4 of it,
40, right?
No, 42 of it is
42,000?
QPAC charges. That's all new debt, new
Okay.
and refinanced debt.
Okay, and sorry, you said that's QPAC?
Like 30
Is
of
the way
it.
to-
Yeah, so like 30 of it would be, there was only 40, roughly 40 new hydrants.
Okay.
Um,
Does the town have the ability to either approve or deny new developments?
You would, the town has, right now, they could put a moratorium on building developments, but that hasn't, I would think that'd have to go to the voters to do it.
How do we write that?
Petition warrant article.
Perfect. I'm trying to get 25 signatures.
And the town.
Because
requires-
ultimately, these new developments,
And the town requires
if the
that.
town doesn't have control over denying them, you're automatically getting handed an increase in cost.
Not
That
just
is
here.
eating-
Not just here.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of the conversation, yep. You're
So,
absolutely
so
right.
who is the ultimate decider on yes, a development goes or no, a development does not?
Well, unfortunately, our state legislature has taken a lot of,
The ownership, yeah.
ownership over zoning in this past year. And so a lot of it is we're gonna go back and we're gonna push back. And so that's a lot of the conversation of this group too, is how do we go back now and say, okay, it can't just be a right to put in residential, developments. It has to be controlled locally, because that's the only way this is going to work. Different towns have different limitations and have, quite frankly, different cultures that they're trying to protect, and different resources that they're trying to protect. So for the state legislature to say, well, now any commercial property can have a residential property put on it. That's the new law. No, that doesn't work for everyone.
Mixed use.
Well,
It doesn't.
where is parking and all the other things?
That's right, right? We all have different
I think
needs.
to your point, Mr.
Has to
Taylor,
be
it would be
local.
interesting to see if you looked across this entire budget, how much of these increases are attributed to new developments.
A lot.
Right. And is there anything that this town can do, either through planning board, zoning board, or board of selectmen, that can maybe not deny putting residential on there, but denying something that would cause you to be unable to get that development in? For example, okay, you know what? Sorry, we're not approving that a hydrant line is gonna go into this development. Therefore, there won't be a hydrant. Therefore, you can't actually build that many houses there.
So
How do you make
Yeah,
it stop
I think our
within
planning
this
board
part
is
of the
now,
town?
I think our planning board now is requiring the hydrants. So that would have to be a change by the planning board to decide they don't want to do it anymore, but I don't know anybody would do that. I think a moratorium on building in general may be an option, but I'm not even sure if that can even be done.
Well, they didn't.
Well, yeah,
they-
I mean, only within the new state laws, right? I mean, so
They didn't
the new
take-
state law, everyone gets an ADU. ADUs for everybody, pass them out. That's state law. I mean, we can't
But we can change
fight against
density
that.
from what I.
The conversation is really to have our state reps go up there, have the NRPC, have the municipal group, which was there the other Monday night, and have these towns, if we collectively get our legislators together and have these conversations and they know the will of their people, we're hoping that that makes a
But the reality,
difference.
isn't the intention of the planning board to allow, plan for building, so I guess the question is, are they incentivized to stop building?
Well, there,
So, but there are, from conversations, there were ways of doing it, like changing densities from 2.5 per acre to back to 1.5. Like the one over on 102 was approved, I believe, at 2.5 per acre. You could get that reduced by local ordinance when we had the conversation. So there are things you can do to reduce the impact of them. maybe not stop them, but maybe reduce the impact.
So I don't think the planning board's incented to have things built. They're driven by making sure things are being done within
The
our
law.
laws, our ordinances, and our sort of desire what the community should look like and where it should develop, right? I'm not
No
sure they
development.
care if we're building or not, per se,
Far
but.
Because unfortunately, as we've learned, the idea that Carrie and I have floated around, jack up the impact fees, then isn't going to help us as far as operational issues. Because then at that point, we end up with a situation of, well, you can't use impact
use the
fees for
impact
that,
fees.
you can't use impact fees for that, so, maybe you just have to get absurd and just say, you know what, you need 10 acres per household if you want to build.
I think
And make it just something so impossible that nobody can build.
So I think what we've seen, at one of the things that Wyndham brought up the other night, which is a great idea, I reached out to the TA, I want to learn more about how they're doing this, is these developers that are coming in for these larger residential units, they're now saying, okay, we want you to kick in the costs of this infrastructure that is going to be devoted to your
Who
development.
makes that decision?
And they're actually going into contracts with these.
Who makes that decision at a local level?
Well, I think it would be two things. It's fees, any fee has to be set by the Board of Selectmen. And then the enforcer would most likely be the planning board. So you have
But to me, it makes sense, like, big cities do that. Oh, you wanna
Oh, yeah.
put this big development? Well, I have this intersection that needs to be reworked.
Absolutely. We
So
did it all the
why
time.
aren't we doing, like, it just.
Leverage the
Yeah,
contractor.
absolutely.
Bringing us back, any other questions on fire hydrants this evening?
Oh, we're stuck. There's no negotiation.
Do a petition warrant article, put it back on the ratepayers.
No, because everybody benefits from this.
That was the argument we did it the first time.
Yeah, it just, we get screwed by a contract.
All right, moving us to insurance, 419690. I did have a conversation before we began this evening with Mr. Brunel and Ms. Kleiner. And I'll just, Ms. Kleiner, feel free, or Mr. Brunel to jump in. We just received insurance numbers today. The Board of Selectmen has not had an opportunity to really see them, dive into them, ask questions. I asked Mr. Brunel and Ms. Kleiner to give us a high-level overview of what they got today. And then after the Board of Selectmen has their opportunity to dig into these on Monday, when we come back together next Thursday, before we start our voting, we will take 10 minutes and ask any questions we have around insurance.
So they have not yet been released?
No.
No, so, just to be frank, I got a phone call today. I generally get a phone call as a courtesy first. We will, Karen and I will get the actual rate transmittal tomorrow, so.
If you want to hit the high level of what you got on that phone call today,
Sure.
I don't want us to spend too much time because
And-
I think
and-
sharing now sets the stage for it.
Yeah, so, this still holds true, none of this is Primex. So Primex, is estimated for late next week. What we received today was a call from Health Trust. So, we have two medical plans. The majority of our employees are on the HMO. That's going up 5.3%. We have a small amount of employees that are on what they call the site of service, which is a lower cost plan to the town, has a higher deductible. That is going up 8.1%. And then dental's going up 4.4%. So, quick, Karen and I did some quick finance, and we're talking like $26,000, right? 25 and change.
For all three of those.
For all three of those.
Okay.
The reason we think it's important for the board to have this conversation first is, we were told earlier that we expected much larger increases than this. So we did go out to private insurers and did our due diligence and so we haven't shared any of this information yet with the board, and we at least want to share that. our recommendation may be stay with Health Trust, but they deserve that
Yep. I agree with that. Thank you.
conversation.
So we'll hold any questions. We'll come back. We'll hit.
I have a question.
He wants to know the private insurance.
Yeah.
Who can I talk to?
Who you talk to, yeah.
Because his isn't as nice.
Intrinsic motivation there.
His guy's underwater.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I did share my contact with
Is the town considering, knowing what I know now about the insurance and learning a lot about insurance over the past couple of weeks, including today, is the town considering any warrant articles that allow us to have a reserve in the event of insolvency of these companies?
No. So I'm sorry, John.
Go ahead.
My recommendation to the board would never be to go with an accessible plan. That's what school care is. Health Trust is not. Difference is, Health Trust builds up their reserves. They would never bill back the town, right? They go over those, but those reserves are higher than school care or the other one.
Interlocal.
Thank you. Who's no longer around. The reason being is coming from a place where we were self-insured and doing this for 5 years, managing a self-insured, you've got to make sure that your reserves can handle any claims that are going to come in. The last thing you want is a unexpected bill, right? I never let my reserves get below 12%. I think 4 or 5 is ridiculous. That's just my opinion. So I think Health Trust, my opinion, Health Trust does a very good job.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have personnel administration. I think the number was incorrect on the agenda. The correct number for personnel is 4155.
So, I mean, all of this is kind of due to wages and things that have gone up. So, I mean, there's some retirement changes that passed the legislature this year, but obviously, more wages drives more taxes, more wages drives more retirement costs. There was 20,000 in the default budget that was carried for increases. So there was that $20,000 that did help offset some of those increases that the selectmen gave in April. And then there's a small increase in the unemployment rate.
Questions on 4155, personnel administration?
Are we not carrying another 20,000 for next year's reviews?
So
It's in the
we
default.
changed that. Well, it will be in the default because it gets carried over, right? But we changed the way we were doing that when we proposed the 2025 budget. So if the 2025 proposed had passed, you're seeing that in the salary line. So that salary line in every single department has their normal wage from January to the end of March and their increase from April to the end of the year. So you should actually be able to click on it and see in the proposed, the formula.
So there's not anything based on any performance reviews
It's all
at
step-based.
I like the old way better.
Well, it was, so depends when you think when the old way was. Before it was step-based, we went to performance-based, then we went back to step-based.
Yeah, having worked in a non-union environment where not everybody does the same amount of work, it's really irritating as an employee to get a same raise as the person who's, you think, geez, how do you still have your job? Not that we have any of those, but why should they get the same raise if we did? So I'm a huge proponent of performance-based.
Any other questions on personnel administration? All right, next is advertising and regional associations. That's 419710.
And so this was actually lowered by the select board, due to trend. So we weren't spending as much. This was a conversation we had early on in the budget. So,
Any questions on this one? Okay, next we have review of revenue estimates. So if you're on the digital, that is the very last tab on the far right.
so, the estimated revenues, for 2025, were 3.3. And then every year, Karen and I sit, and go through and you are required, to give the DRA your revised, revenues. And this is in kind of one of the steps before you can get your tax rate. So you look at what's actually come in, right? And if you look at the state right now, they're really bad. It was just issued, I think, 7 million they're under. But, our change, use tax, so LUCT, that didn't come in, as we thought it would, so we lowered that by 5. We lowered interest by 20 because that has not been, holding, and I think we all know those, and then increased, building permits because that had gone up. So, those were it was, roughly about 15, that we lowered the 2025 revenues. Then we look at the 2026 proposed. We put that 5, we still expect that 5 in the land use change tax. It's just the development didn't move as fast as we thought it would, so we put that back in for 2026. We are watching the trend on motor vehicle registrations. Of course, that's one of the good effects of new development is you have more cars.
No, that's not a good thing, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, more revenue from motor vehicles. And so looking at the trend, due to new development, we increased that by 50. And then we've seen an increase in mechanical and plumbing permits, and some of this is how we are charging for permits now. When they set the new town fees back in 2024, they broke those out separately from the regular building permit. And so that has helped us, and we increased that 6,000, due to what we're seeing. So
Is that trend, though, skewed by any of the developments, though? Or is this just strictly existing properties that have been going through renovations?
Good point. I think it's both. So it used to be I'll give you for instance, an in-ground pool. They weren't charging for the electrical and some of the plumbing. Now everything's separate, right? So if our building inspector has to go out there and do 2 inspections for different types of work, we're getting
charged,
that back.
Roughly so.
But it's also on new.
I'm just worried that.
Same thing for new or develop or.
Okay, so I guess
existing.
my only concern is 6K too aggressive if we're on the downside of these developments that are skewing the numbers and you think it's gonna be 6, but like the construction of the new developments is coming down as far as permits, is that more likely gonna be around 3 or 4?
I was gonna say, I think in the basin,
We're
we're seeing for a
we're not
pipeline.
down yet. We're not
Okay.
on this end of the developments
fine.
yet. I think we're kind of still here.
Although if we put a moratorium in, we could totally change
Yeah,
that.
you're not-
Carrie's
You're not
over
gonna affect
there.
2026 at all at this point, so the trend's pretty solid, I think.
Questions on revenue estimates?
Yeah, can we talk about motor vehicles here for a minute?
Sure.
All right, so you've increased it $50,000. How did you calculate that increase?
So we looked at, what we've gotten the past 2 years. And we can kind of figure out month by month what we're averaging and the number of cars. And we're seeing both, rise, both the number of registrations. Sorry.
I contributed to that one myself. I now have a teenage
So-
driver, so we went up.
No, I guess.
And the revenue.
I'll get to the hard question, right? So I guess, right, if we have 197 units on Rose Meadow, right, not considering the horse farm or not considering Talarico, right, just leaving those out of the equation for a minute, right, just considering Rose Meadow for a minute for my math, and saying, all right, looking at those 197 units and saying, with all the development, including everyone, and factoring, all right, 2 cars, $500 a car, including everybody,
Yeah.
right? That's $200,000.
Yeah.
Right, so why isn't this $200,000 instead of $50,000?
Well, so one of the things that, and I think the interest this year, we're trying to be,
Not everybody pays
Um,
$500 either.
Well, I'm just using a rough
I,
number,
I
right?
based it on $200, and it's still, to me, it's like, it's $80,000, not.
yeah, I would say that the majority of them are probably not 500, but
Yeah, I really
to that point, some of those developments we're already getting that revenue, right? So we're already seeing that in our 2025 number. We have still some units to be developed, but not nearly the amount that you're calculating. That's the first thing. Second thing is we want to kind of see where so we have new DMV charges coming out, right? The beginning of the year, yeah, I know.
How much more is it gonna
The
cost?
state's don't worry. The state's gonna get theirs. And we kind of want to see where that all comes out. So are we being ultra conservative? Yes, but we would have the opportunity to raise that when Karen and I meet with the DRA next October. If it's higher than what we've projected and we have more revenue, it just means a lower tax rate. It goes right to the taxpayers.
Other questions on revenue this evening?
Or staying with that theory,
Yeah.
or if we increase the revenue projection, it also helps tax cap.
Let's not be manipulating numbers.
I think we're trying to be conservative and not overstate it.
Because it's always better to have
I don't
more
think we're
revenue.
overstating it. I think it's too conservative.
Well, it all depends. I can tell you right now, the car we just registered is the first time I've spent over several $100s on a registration. My registration is nowhere near 500 for my other two
Okay,
cars.
so calculate 3, and you still can increase this to 50,000, 75,000 more than it is.
Let me ask the question this way, based on the revenue estimates that we've had for registrations in the past, how have we exceeded that number? What's the increase?
How much have we exceeded?
Right, so if you put it, if last year we did $20,000, what did we actually do in unprotected? Because I think that's what you're looking for, like, how far off are we, right?
Yeah, what's the year over year?
That's a good estimate.
Yeah.
Or could we take a look at the 2025 registrations
Where else?
and find out what
Yeah.
the
With the tax
average,
gap.
what is the average registration cost?
We thought
And
we
then
would
do that times the development.
Because hypothetically speaking, year over year, your car depreciates, you're not getting as much for that same car. Over next year.
Good point.
And you're not gonna get the influx of new vehicles purchased probably, so, you're probably gonna lose more year over year for depreciation of your
I
vehicle.
want to say it cost me like $300 to register.
And we can talk about this next week.
But I think it's an excellent point, Andrew. I think we just need a couple other data points.
Yeah.
So that we can figure out what is the right number. Is it 50?
And
Is
then
it
we're at
200?
160.
It's somewhere in there.
Right,
But give us some data to be
whatever
able
that
to come
number
up.
is a direct impact on the bottom line.
Go ahead,
So,
Ms. Klein.
just give this is just a rough, so.
We have 15.
Yeah, we have like 15% left to collect this year, right? And so Karen and I were kind of figuring out where do we think we'll be, and we thought we would probably be over, but not considerably over. And so using that, we kept the projection for next year lower. I mean, do we think we're gonna be $100,000 over this year? Probably not. But, I mean, we had a very progressive interest rate, and we got so much money last year. If you remember, we had this conversation. We came in and we said, we gotta raise the interest revenue. And I think everyone said, oh, are you sure? Be really conservative. We went more conservative and we just had to lower it. We don't want to have to do that. I'd rather be conservative than use it with the tax cap.
Anything else on revenues this evening?
I'd rather get it right and get cruisers back in the budget.
You don't wanna be
I
seen-
understand,
point
and
too.
the board
That's a good
can
point.
certainly tell us to raise it, and we
That's a
will.
good point.
Yeah, I don't think we've.
I'll
actually
give
reviewed-
you-
We haven't
well-
reviewed the revenues yet, I don't believe.
Well, she has time to do some more data collection.
And Karen and I can get
you
you
raised
more
it 10
data for
grand,
Monday
that'd make
night.
a-
John.
But I also would caution that now that it's been raised, we don't wanna look like we're manipulating numbers to hit a target.
No, but I want to get it right.
No, I hear you, I just wanna be careful that the perception isn't,
Your
Yeah.
point is more about being accurate than being manipulative.
Yes.
Is
Alright.
it too late to change what the town registration rate would be for 2026?
we
Do you
have,
still have the ability to pull that lever and change the rate per thousand that the town collects so that you could actually come up with perhaps a number that hits 200?
The rate, the town, it's set by
it's
state
set by
law.
state.
Hey, but
The town has no control over how much the town,
Otherwise-
when I write the check to town of Litchfield for registration, that rate is set by the state?
yes.
Otherwise, people will just start registering.
And it all
cars at the
doesn't
lake
go to
house.
us, a lot of it goes to the state.
Yeah.
A lot of it goes
We
to
have
the
to,
state.
yeah, not that whole check will come to
Okay.
us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Alright.
of it's due to-
And it's funny, when I raised the issue about putting a $5 fee for whatever, and everyone went crazy. We're
Oh,
talking
they-
raising it even higher, that's not gonna respond at
Yeah,
all.
that was not a good conversation.
No, it was not, I thought it was like, did you
I'm
ever
still
think about
annoyed
it?
with
Damned if you do,
AAA
damned if you don't.
postage.
People are gonna complain about $5 registration, but they don't want the taxes to go up. It's
All
like,
right, let's move to review of preliminary default budget. Ms. Kleiner has a slide up here with some information. I did go back and look. This was shared with us on September 18th by Ms. Kleiner, so we have to
Hasn't
dig.
changed,
We have to
much.
dig.
But it will once the
Well,
insurance,
yeah,
Correct.
well, in the bad,
well,
wrong
twenty-six
way,
puts you
right?
a little closer to 500,000, yep.
I think what this tells us is, number one, we gotta be very careful with warrant articles, and that there's a very large increase between the 2026 proposed and the 2026 default that wasn't there in 2025, right? And so, to your point, how we close that gap.
So I mean, it's one of those catch-22s, right? It sets the town behind, but it's still more attractive to a person on a fixed income, which sets us even further behind. So how do we make sure that we don't scare voters away, but still meet the needs of the town? And that's what my concern is. Especially if you're one of those people whose taxes just doubled and you're like, oh no! It's easy to vote no.
it was 400.
Right, yeah, and I went and looked back at those 200%, mostly mobile homes, and mostly the same across the state,
Right,
you
so
know, so,
some of the people who are least able to absorb
least.
the increase, they're gonna be incentivized to vote no.
to your point, yep, absolutely. We had the conversation, we reached out to legal, which got us nowhere. I was excited for about 20 minutes because I found a new state law that says ambulance is essential services. So I said, well, it's essential services. Well, legal said so's heat.
Well,
And
they,
you can't increase that in the default either.
really, cause the school does.
Is it because you have a contract, maybe? Yeah.
I have no idea.
So,
The school's position is we're required to have it, therefore we can increase it.
About the kids.
Well, that's,
I'm about the budget right now.
so
money.
this was why I raised it with Kim
Yeah.
about ambulance going, well, isn't the town required to provide an ambulance service?
And I
By
actually,
law, is that
Oh.
different than student transportation? Is that your question?
That's, it's so different
Yeah.
in my opinion. If
Well-
someone picks up 911, they needs an ambulance and it needs to be.
But are we
somebody
required by
responds.
law to have an ambulance service?
Have,
Well,
deliver
yeah,
that
I would
message.
think not. There's gotta be towns like in northern New Hampshire that you
They all
can't.
have, but they all outsource it to
They
somebody else.
outsource it, yeah.
Well, I
It's-
gotta say,
That's, we
I-
outsource it too.
Done.
Right, but I mean, how far can, he means one thing, like, we have Hudson, like, okay, you can outsource an ambulance to Hudson. You can't
I,
outsource an ambulance
I
5
can't
towns
tell you.
over in northern New
No, you
Hampshire.
can't.
It's never
And-
gonna get there.
New
Up
Hampshire
in
runs
Bristol,
for
Bristol
two
runs the
units.
fire department for that whole Lakes region, and they have the ambulances scattered around town, on the towns.
It would be
And they charge
interesting.
back for it, which is the same we do with London.
Because where I grew up, you wouldn't even bother calling the ambulance because they'll show up next week. So, like, seriously, we call the fire department after everything's burned down. Like, it's one of those things. Like, it all depends on where you are, right? So,
People,
yeah,
people aren't gonna
here-
do what you want them to do, Karen.
Southern, no, I'm saying with Southern New Hampshire.
Where is that?
We're so. I lived in upstate New York. You were not getting an ambulance to where I lived. You put the person in the car and you get to the hospital quicker. So it's one of those. It's a matter of it's. We're looking at it from the perspective of Southern New Hampshire. I don't know what Coas County does or some of those other less populated and they're subject to the same state laws. So do we really, to his point, required legally? I don't know what the answer is to that.
The
Because it
only
would tie
law-
the hands up north.
Yeah, the only law that we found was saying that it's an essential service.
Right.
Well, if you tell me something's an essential service,
Then-
that tells me you should be able to put it in your default.
But here's-
But legal said no.
If we axe the ambulance service, we need to axe the fire department, because the fire department is responding to the medical and they have no way to transport, so.
That is absolutely true.
Right, so you can't have one without the other, in my
Or you
opinion.
see if the school lawyers also do towns, because they found a way to make it work.
Unless your contact. No.
Yeah, swap context there.
Oh, collaboration tonight.
Any, I guess, any other initial questions based on what we have, information we have tonight for the default? Obviously, this is
I
gonna
mean-
shift a little bit with insurance.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it's gonna shift is not
It's gonna
the
go
way we
worse.
want
Right.
necessarily.
Do we get can we we can't put the insurance increases in it neither, right?
Not based on the current interpretation of our legal.
All right, I'm gonna move us to review of tax cap,
Here
which
we go.
is, if you are on the digital, scroll all the way back to the left,
Okay.
and it's the third tab. All right, Ms. Kleiner. Currently set $14,998 over the tax cap.
And so,
And growing.
yeah, we've kind of estimated, hopefully, probably by Monday night, it's like 50K.
The insurance would make it about 40K, but you're
And
not,
that's not
but that
very
doesn't
good.
count Primex either.
And
Right.
it doesn't include cruisers that are necessary, it doesn't include some needed things.
So I think, we're still waiting. Karen and I won't see that unassigned fund balance until the tax rate is set. And we really want to see what that is, because
And we're not gonna see that until they get their stuff settled.
Hey,
Right.
we're good.
You are?
Sure. It's not our problem.
So no, it's not.
School cares issue.
Yeah, which is a Litchfield taxpayer issue.
You
Not if I
gotta
don't pay
pay
it.
school care and,
So, you anticipate coming into Monday's Board of Selectmen meeting being about 50K over.
and hopefully we're working with department heads, to kind of have some suggestion.
Are you accounting for, are you guesstimating your Primex increase in that too? Or no?
No, that was probably, might be 60, 65. I mean, we have no way of
I know,
knowing.
I know.
Primex has given no indication what they will go up. They went up last year. So they tend not to have high increases, but insurance overall, I mean, everyone's right, seeing their insurance rates go crazy, so.
Tell me about it. I got a $430,000 bill.
So I wouldn't buy too much into that, but we want to have enough suggestions for the board, to try to at least lower it, below the cap. If fund balance comes in high, because last year we did use a lot of it for warrant articles, but we also had some left over in the budget, in the operating budget. If those two offset, then the idea might be take that 100 for if it is 100
But that's
for
an
the
ongoing
lease.
cost. I'd focus on like air packs or something that's more of a one-time purchase.
Kim, can we not do,
Well,
can-
you lost me.
the overlay we can do in October, right? So.
Yes,
Could we not, in this budget, predict what that overlay is gonna be to lower the tax rate? To actually lower the cap cost, bring the budget within cap as a revenue? Do we show it in the revenues as revenue, or we do not?
Overlay?
yeah.
There's
overlay.
an ad
So that's the
overlay.
$57,000 in the bottom, right? That's it?
We don't set overlay
50,
until
yeah.
the tax rate.
Right. But we can say the board's gonna commit $200,000 to an overlay.
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
never been that
why-
close.
do
We've
that.
done- we've
Why,
done
you
it
don't wanna
before.
do that.
We've done it before.
The highest you've ever been is 150 in the overlay.
150.
Yeah, you don't wanna do that.
Once.
75, I think. 175 was one time.
One time,
But I just.
10 years
But that
ago.
raises, that raises
But here's,
your
because the reason why I
appropriation.
say it is because we already have a problem with voters not understanding what unassigned fund balance is. So if we try to apply unassigned fund balance to any of the warrants, we're not sure it's gonna pass when there's no tax impact. So how do we even negate that and not have to worry about it on the
You
warrant?
don't manipulate your overlay.
Well, again, it's a one-time cost.
Education campaign.
Do we, I mean, the other,
Yeah, but
not to go back to this, but I gotta go back to this, and it's gonna get personal,
But that-
sorry.
That's
Sorry.
the other way.
Where,
It's
where,
the
where are we
wrong
with the
way.
IT
You know,
contract?
the next year
The
you're
IT
gonna
manager
get-
contract, because
Yeah,
that's a
it's
wild card
gonna
in this
screw
too.
up your tax cap the following year too.
Hold on, go ask that question.
Where are we with the IT contract, the IT manager contract? Because that's a wild card in this bottom line number two.
Monday night's meeting.
Okay. So that could have a direct impact on
I
this
think,
number.
I think she's, I would assume she's calculated that in her number she mentioned earlier.
Whatever happens, it happens.
I'd rather adjust that one than my overlay, just saying.
Is there a way, just from a visual standpoint, if you is there a tab on here that would show? Well, no, that'd make it too difficult. Never mind. Disregard.
So, talking about tax cap, right, and I'm gonna put my former budget committee hat on and take off my school board hat on.
You are on
Like,
the-
Oh!
like,
All
like
right.
I'm
Throw
sitting
back
on the
Andrew.
budget
All
committee.
right.
Right?
All right.
It's coming
The old Andrew's coming back right now.
Yes.
Right? Okay, here we go.
First, before you start, I think we need to hear your thoughts, because when I go to Monday's meeting, we're gonna have this conversation, and I'm going to ask, we gotta figure out how to get it down to the tax cap, below the tax cap. So,
That's
you
where
have
I'm going.
ideas, you have ideas.
Go ahead.
I would like to hear them.
That's where I'm going, right? So I think this budget committee has an obligation to get 2 cruisers in this budget, right? I think you have an obligation to do that. I think the board has an obligation to do that to the taxpayers. So I'd be fully in favor of getting $100,000 put in this budget. Now, I understand the tax gap, so hear me out, right? I brought this up years ago. It was highly unpopular. I'm gonna bring it up again. It's wants versus needs. Mr. Taylor mentioned this tonight. We have to take a look at the library. We have to, right? I'm not saying I'm against the library. I'm not. But their increases are so substantial to this budget year over year. Something needs to take a look. We need to take a look at this, right? Their percentages are
Unsustainable.
unsustainable and far in excess of what is in the rest of this budget. They just are, right? At some point, something has to change. And what we heard continuously over the past 3 weeks is wants versus needs. My priority are the wants, right? Or, sorry, are the needs,
yeah.
are the needs, right?
Gotcha.
Are the needs, right? So, like, look, we have to make these decisions, and it's gonna be up to either the board, the budget committee, or a collection of both to make those decisions. And where I'm gonna go is the library.
I think the question, when we've asked in the past, is since they're their own body and they're generally a pass-through for the Board of Selectmen,
Right.
That's right.
what can we do legally? Well, one, I guess the question is, are we legally required to have a library? 2, how much
Free library, right?
how much oversight, like, what reductions can the budget committee make? It is a lot of legal things here.
Well,
Well, I mean,
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
And
was
finish.
just saying, I thought you folks explored this before, and I believe you can make a bottom line budget change. You just
You
can't
can.
tell them what to do.
Right.
And I think the Board of Selectmen can do the same thing, but it's probably not likely to happen.
No, I think the budget committee, because you're an official budget committee, and the legislative body, which is the voters.
So, I mean, would it
But-
require a vote of the voters to make a substantial?
I think the
Well, let me ask
selectmen
you-
can
I-
work
Fire
with the,
passing
with
question
the
that
library
because-
trustees.
I just don't know how it
But I-
works, because they're a separate entity, they're treated differently.
Yeah, I've always told they're separate and we really can't tell them what to do, but why does the library come in front of the Board of Selectmen to present?
Because they expect you to rubber stamp on something.
Right.
If we have no authority to do anything, why is it bother?
Because you collect their money for them.
Nah, it still doesn't make sense.
And it's going into your bottom line.
Well, we're just a pass-through.
Yeah, we pass through the whole
Where it's
thing,
a
so.
pass, the town's a pass-through.
Yeah.
We collect it in the taxes and we give it to them.
But I mean, I think,
So-
and nobody wants to talk about it, but you're gonna have to, because there's gonna be major renovations necessary.
Got it.
There's gonna be a lot of expenses associated with this that are gonna crowd out cruisers and firefighters and other stuff. And at some point, yes, I just don't know how you get that conversation, like,
Sorry, am I
legally started.
Am I talking about a librarian, or am I talking about fire apparatus or fire air supply safety for firefighters? What's my choice?
But again, I just don't know how you make that choice, like legally.
I'm easily making that choice.
No, but legally,
Right.
can you say we reduce their budget to $1 and sort it out? Or does it have to go to the voters and say, we would like to have a serious conversation about it? I don't know the
I
next
don't know if you
step.
can legally drop it to $1. That's the only problem.
Well, that's what the thing is, I don't know what I don't know what the next step is legally.
Yeah, so I guess going
we
into,
can find
going
out.
into voting, I would like to know, you know,
Yes.
is, if I made a bottom line budget cut and the Board of Selectmen decided that the library was going to take X percent of that cut, can you actually enforce it, or do you need us to go ahead and cut that budget in order to make it enforceable?
I think these are good questions. I think we need legal
Yep.
support
I-
and guidance.
got it.
on
I
these.
somewhere remember, I kind of thought that we went through this back when you were on, and
Here we go.
I thought the budget committee was the only one that could really physically cut it.
I think so.
I think that's
So now that
true.
I'm
but
thinking
I just-
about it.
But I just don't know, like, can you
Yeah.
just reduce it?
It's all
Does it
coming
have to
back
have-
now.
Because they're their own entity, does it actually have to be approved by the voters? I don't know, I just don't know.
So the only question I have is, in their presentations, and every presentation they've presented, their usage rates continue to grow. And they would argue that they provide a service to our young community that cannot be fulfilled anyplace else
Mhm.
conveniently for the families. So, this is what I say, it becomes this,
Yeah.
it's
I don't
it's not a want and a
disagree.
need, it's, I think libraries are a need. We have to have access to the libraries. I think one year you proposed, go get cards over at Hudson
Hudson.
and
I was
go
gonna say,
there.
yeah, you could use it in
right?
surrounding towns. right?
So, I forget why that
They
didn't fly.
said
but-
Hudson wasn't interested in accepting that influx.
more-
But again, I also, you know, you can use statistics to say whatever you'd like. Yes, there were 14,000 uses. How many of them were individual subscribers? If I download a book or two a day, that's 300 to 700 individual usage. If I take out 10 books a week,
Yeah, we don't
that's
know if they're,
3,000.
we don't know if they're unique users.
Right, so how many unique users use the library would be a more interesting number for me. Are we keeping the library alive for 25 to 50 people?
Right, and
Or are we
let's-
keeping it alive for 2,000?
And let's divide that cost times the number of unique people.
So to me, again, the unique users is more important than how many times people check out a book or download it.
Maybe we should ask Ann if she has those numbers,
Yeah.
like how many unique users per week do we have? Cause I think you use it a week, cause it's
Because
a
it-
revolving story, right? So if it's a revolving kind of thing, you go in one week, get a book, go back next week, get another book. I would say ask for the unique count, if they have it, per week.
Okay.
Look, I think, John, your point of, you know, they're showing growth in services. They're providing a valuable service to the town. I don't know that anybody would dispute that. I think it goes back to probably the essence of your question and your point of what are we prioritizing as the most important essential services for the town, and how many years do we continue to kick the can of cruisers and generators and things that are a public
Life-saving.
safety,
Right.
Yeah.
public safety compared to the value that a library brings? And it doesn't say they don't bring value. It's a different value when you're talking about public safety.
And just to continue with the whole battle that John and I are gonna have till the end of time, is I look at it and say, okay, well, you know what? I'll use the library because we're talking about that one. Maybe you gotta wait in a longer line to check out a book. Maybe that means there's 5 more kids, but you know what? Your kindergarten program has been forced to push up its limit of how many kids per kindergarten class, for example. Maybe somebody needs to stand in line longer here to go ahead and register their car or pay their property taxes. Maybe somebody waits too long in line at the dump and decides to get a private trash service. Unfortunately, you know what? As far as police and fire, those are things you can't wait in line longer for.
And just, on the library thought, let's not forget, all 3 schools have libraries for the kids.
Well, I mean, you also have services for the older people.
Yeah,
Like, there's
but
so-
they're not
there's
open
There's other things
I
they do, I
totally,
think.
but yeah.
School hours and stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think what would be interested to see, I don't know if we can get this granular with their data, is when they look at the programs that they run, are they servicing school age kids? Are they servicing non-school
I
age
think it's
kids?
both, right?
Sure
I'm
it
not
is.
discounting that.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
And we have kids in town that do not go to our public schools. So I think, but I hear you. I know. I hear what you're
But
saying.
we also don't run a scrutiny like we do with the school, asking them, how many kids do you have in AP Physics? And is it worth it running it for 4 kids, for example? And is that a good use of your money? We don't ask that kind of question when it comes to the different library programs. What if they're running a Saturday morning program that has 2 kids in it, or 2 older adults in it? Why don't we scrutinize them like I scrutinize Andrew on his budget?
To your point about the advisory warrant articles, do we really have a good sense of what is important to the residents? I mean, the library isn't the only budget in here that has very large costs.
Rec commission?
Yep.
Yep, like some of the.
Right?
Yep, there's a
And
lot.
so there was an advisory warrant article a few years ago about talent, and I think that it was kind of clear, right? They didn't want to investigate.
Right.
So do we really know? I mean, if we cut the library, is that what the residents want?
They
Do
want
they?
reduced hours? I don't
Do
know.
What
we-
do they
It's an
want?
interesting thing about talent, though. Our response was to continue maintaining it
Yes,
at that rate. Why wouldn't we just shut the building down? If you don't want to invest in maintaining that facility, because the facility is aging itself out,
I think eventually it does get shut down because it gets condemned.
but we keep on
But
throwing
we
money
keep
at
putting
it.
money in.
Right.
Just put a whole new floor in it. We just threw a whole bunch of money at
I
it.
think the issue was specifically is the cost of a new building. And I
Yeah.
think that was the issue.
I have a question, and I think another
we
question
know?
that we can we capture this question
I
and
don't
take it
think
back
we
to the
do.
library? I don't know that we've ever asked this before. Do they have the opportunity to go get any dollars outside of local? Like, are there state and federal dollars that can come to local town libraries?
For operating costs?
Just for services, programs,
An
books,
annual gala,
anything.
like, there's other fundraising opportunities, like.
So every public library can have what they call a Friends of the Library,
Yeah.
a nonprofit arm to it.
Do we?
Um,
I don't.
I think
I
they
don't-
did,
we used
but
to, right?
it went, yeah.
So I'd
So that's volunteers, right? That's,
Okay.
and
I'd
But if
be
you wanna
interested
keep
if
it
we
alive-
have an opportunity to receive dollars from the state or the federal government that could offset local dollars.
I think they have gotten grants to bring programs on board, and then those fundings fell off. They now have to carry it in the local, so.
But there needs to be, like, some of our rec places, right, they have annual fundraisers to help offset the cost. We have booster clubs at the school to help offset some of the cost. Like, why, if the community truly supports this, why are we not asking the community to support it? Like, we are looking at people in this community with 200% tax increases. How are we gonna help them? By being creative in how we fund our different things.
So I would like to go back to Andrew's initial point, which was that we need to find a way to get 2 cruises in the budget.
Well-
John, I'll ask you,
Well, do you want the?
do you think the Board of Selectmen will consider the lease, loan, whichever way the chief wants to
Financing
present
package,
it,
yeah.
package, is that going to be discussed and seriously considered Monday night?
It's part of the warrant conversation.
It's
but
cheaper than
we can
two.
definitely.
No, that's not my question. It's,
But we can't-
I'm
we
not
can't-
asking about the
because
warrant, I'm
it's a
asking about
finan-
putting it in the budget.
We can't, because
Why?
it's a financing package, has to go to the voters to be approved. Any multi-year contract has to go to the voters. We cannot put the money in the bank.
Okay.
Right, so, which hurts us a lot of times, because there's always multi-year benefits here and there, but, yeah, we have to go
Well,
to
I
the
think this
voters.
would be cleanest if you did it separately, and then you put it in the budget, and then you keep it in the budget. But to your question, to your thing, as much as I hate the idea,
2 cruises is more expensive.
well, the annual lease would be cheaper than replacing 2 or 3 cruisers every year. As much as I despise leases,
Then-
financially, it makes, in this case, it would probably make more sense than
Can-
straight up 2 cruisers.
I would love this to stop using the word leases. It's a financial program. It's financing, it's not.
I get that you wanna get as far away from the solar project that was a
Yeah,
lease
it's not a
as
lease.
you possibly can, I get
We
it.
own them if we don't, we
Yeah.
own them, we
But
don't.
would you not, after 5 years, trade them in, or
Well, we
swap
would,
them out?
we'd cycle them back out again, yeah.
They
Well,
need
it's
a
a-
freaking lease.
You would have dollars in the
No,
budget.
we have
that
dollars
you
in
would
the budget,
have.
yeah. It's just, it's a funding mechanism to be able to maintain a fleet of this size and keep it flat in the budget.
No,
But even then, I mean, if the warrant passes, it goes in the budget, 'cause we spell it out as a 5-year, so then it gets carried. But we use the argument that we did it with highway, we did that with highway, when that expired, we had to go back to the voters again and ask if we could continue this program. It doesn't stay in the budget forever.
Right, cause then what happens if it passes this time, 5 years from now,
And it
it
doesn't
doesn't
pass.
pass,
Then
and now
we're-
those 5 cars are gone, and
No,
now
they're not gone.
you're
They're
missing
here.
5
They're
cars.
They're our
No, they're not
cars.
gone.
Oh,
They're
okay,
our cars, but the problem is, at that point, they're probably older and they're gonna be off the
that's
fleet.
fine.
You have to start that.
Falling apart.
And we're talking about,
So I wanna make sure when he said it was
I
a
would-
financial
I would,
program.
I would rather ask in a way that says to the voters, we would like to add an additional $100,000 continuously, year over year, to maintain the police department fleet.
But you can't lock in for like forever $100,000 in your budget.
But once it gets in there, we can put it in the budget.
Mr. LaPlante.
looking within the police budget right now, they have, I think, 2 positions that are unfilled.
1.5
1.5.
was the one that we came across, and
And
Mr.
now,
Barker said that was 150,000 for the full-time officer and the part-time SRO.
we're talking about taking away other resources why not just pause? And I understand there was a warrant article, correct, for those
There was
officers?
2 warrant articles for the 2 positions that are there. One's for the SRO and one is for a patrol officer.
So is there any way we can navigate that where you could use those resources this year and push that out a little further?
Still can't do it because if we defer the money from what it's legally been put in the appropriation for, okay, we can use it to buy the first year,
It doesn't get
but
added.
in the next year, we have to add our officers, where's that money coming from?
Yeah, it doesn't get added to the base default budget.
It's not, it's, to your point earlier, like, well, we decided we're not gonna have those 2 officers.
At some point, we need to be looking at services that is in this budget and making tough decisions. Like, that is how you solve this, right? And the challenge that we've had for the past, how many years? 5, 6, 7 years? Is we haven't been having real conversations about making those decisions.
That's because we've been hit by a lot of other big expenses.
I think the issue too is like, when do you have that decision, right? So we sit here as a board, the Board of Selectmen does an evaluation, they say, we're gonna take action A. Okay, we remove action A out of the budget, but how do we get it into the budget for the following year? We're still gonna come forward with a warrant article asking for, we just reduced the budget by $200,000, but we're gonna add $200,000 over here. It's kind of it reminds me of the whole, highway department, second person, to do the cemetery, that the math
Yeah.
was just too difficult for people to understand. We were taking offsetting
Yeah.
costs here, moving it over here, to, in the end, to be whole.
Same with the athletic at the school.
Yeah, and it failed also, which was zero cost, so.
It was cost savings in the long run.
Right.
So our librarians are listed out here, and it's, the director, then there's the children's librarian, then there's the adult service librarian, and there's an assistant librarian
And there's a page also.
in his page. Do we need those specific applications? I mean, could the children's librarian cover the adult service librarian? I mean, do they need to be that
I
specialized?
think the thing, these librarians, they focus on the age groups to help.
I understand that, but,
But to your point, do they need?
in a
could
time
they-
of need, could you maybe for a year or two,
I don't know enough.
extend your services and cover one or the other? I mean,
I don't know enough about how the library functions to be able to advise. I mean, I think it probably makes sense to invite Ann and the trustees back in here and have a conversation about it, because if you're looking at cutting something in this budget,
they should be
I
here for
think
it.
they should be here
Yeah,
for
they should
that.
be.
I totally agree with that. I think we need to
I
get
agree.
answers on some of the legal stuff that we
Stuff.
talked about tonight before we go into that conversation and understand what our options are as well.
Agreed.
But we should also put that level of scrutiny on all the other nice-to-haves in the budget too. Like, we don't wanna be seen as targeting just, well, they're an easy target, but there are other things too that should be looked at.
I've made sure that I've thrown out 3, and I'm sure I
I
can
know,
find some
but I
other
wanna
ones
be
too.
very clear, because last time when I suggested health insurance be looked at, I was accused of, pointing to only one department instead of all the departments. So to be very clear, I'm not looking just at the library, I think we need to look at all of the departments.
So all the departments, they all follow the same guidelines as far as who qualifies for insurance and who doesn't.
Except library.
But the library's the only outlier, and that's outside of out of the board. This is the trustees that made that decision. We have to deal with the financial impact, and we can't change that. I think we,
You could just not fund it.
Is
well, true, but
is their insurance not through they're through the town insurance, right?
yeah.
They're-
they
Yes,
determine-
through the same policy, but the
Full-time is different.
the benefits for the library employees fall under the library trustees because they are their employer
Yeah.
board.
They're the governing body.
So the
The
definition of
library.
full-time is different than the town's
Yeah,
definition.
it's 32 versus our
Yeah,
40.
we had
Yeah.
that discussion.
Is it
last
32
week.
hours is their full-time metric?
Yeah.
And
Okay,
ours is what, 30?
so we have some.
So I get just one more
Hours for a
thing.
full-time is 40.
It's 40,
Right.
okay, but when do we get the
Andrew's-
partial, 50/50, that's.
Piqued my interest as far as saying we
Go
gotta
ahead.
get 2 cruisers.
Mr.
So,
Ted.
so I guess, John, going back to, if we started from scratch here, and we looked at this year and said, you know what, going into this year, you're gonna have a 5% increase year over year for that you can hit as far as the tax cap, plus the 150 of the communication tower that came off the budget. How did we get to, no cruisers when we knew that we were gonna have 150,000 of cost that was going to be coming
Because
off?
everything went up more than for the 5%. Like,
Yeah.
You have the warrant articles that were added in from last year.
Right, and then, we're now at the fall too, which is the other issue, but,
and
yeah, the 150, losing the 150 out of the communications didn't help anybody.
And unfortunately, that's what we've been looking forward to for the last 2 years.
We're hanging our head on that.
When the
Since I got
150
here.
I've
comes
been
off.
hearing for 5 years, I wish I was ever part of the project.
any other questions pertaining to the tax cap tonight?
Well, I was gonna say, back to, the only suggestion I've heard about is remove the library. Is there any other thoughts?
No, I already said, library, dump, town clerk, anything that I can, again, I'm gonna use this is gonna be my philosophy this year. Can you wait for it, or can you not wait for it?
So,
And that's gonna be my dictation of want versus need.
so my only in those other departments we're talking about impacting people. So there are people that are getting health insurance because they're a full-time employee. If we reduce the hours, they're no longer a full-time employee, they lose their benefit. This is this job is their livelihood,
I understand.
right? So the issue now is, now we lose our quality people because they gotta go find another job.
Well,
So I don't know.
it's still bottom line.
Or just the position as a whole.
No, it is
just
a part of
gone.
my budget, I agree with you, we gotta find the money someplace else, so.
The other way you can find the money, and again, it's gonna be highly unpopular, right? But talk about tough decisions, is you say, all right, each department every department across this budget,
5%.
you need to reduce your budget by 5%.
Bottom line, right?
Figure it out.
I tried those cuts one
Yep.
year and most of them didn't go through.
I don't know why.
I tried doing
that's-
it where we dispersed it across everybody and then it starts falling
Money,
apart.
that's one way to do it.
So I think
Andrew,
the
you know,
starting place.
I'd rather have the option if I was dictated that to allocate where I need to find the 5% than be told by us of how to do that.
Well, I think they would like that too, but the reality of it is, every department had started with a zero budget. And they built it based on what their expenses were, based on what is perceived the community's desire for service levels.
Right, sure.
Right, so, again, we've heard nothing, there's no outcry from the community to shut down the recycling center 5 days a week, or, whatever.
Yeah.
There's actually more demand on the hours of our town clerk's office of being open and different, being more frequently available, but we have the lulls, right, that's always the issue.
If you tell the road agent to pave the roads once during a snowstorm, that's what he'll do.
Well, so again, that goes back to.
He'll gladly do it.
I can't say that your residents are gonna be.
Oh, the residents are mad when it's right.
Again,
They're
it goes
upset
back
when
to
it's-
the safety.
it's one
That's
road
right,
trip.
that's right.
Oh, I would make
Maybe,
that
maybe
argument
the
too.
public safety ones, it's 3% or 2.5% or whatever.
I just wanted to go the opposite way.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't, like, the plowing, then at that point, that's just going to, use a pun, it's gonna snowball. Is
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
if we don't plow, then at that point, you're gonna have more accidents, which means you have to dispatch
or-
more fire, but dispatch more police.
Just bringing it back, right? My other recommendation seriously for the board to consider is look at revenues. I would look at revenues.
Look at revenue,
Yeah,
see if we're.
yeah,
we're
how can we
spot on.
increase revenue?
But you have to be very careful of that.
Yeah.
'cause
You
hate
do.
to
Don't want
overstate.
to, you don't want to
We don't wanna overstate it and come way under and have a problem, right, so.
And I go back to, like, for the, I'll say their needs, but the wants of the, like, rec committee, right? Certain population utilize the rec committee. They play their sports, they're there, they're using the fields, they use the outhouses. Why can't those things, like fertilizer for field, $20,000 field maintenance? Why can't those programs fund that, or a portion of that? And help out with that?
I think the challenge with some of these programs, they are funding some of the other things that we don't see, like general maintenance and stuff like that.
Are they?
Yeah.
No.
When baseball,
So I mean, I've been on basketball, lacrosse.
they do field
days. They do
Yeah,
field
I mean,
days
they
and
do
stuff
add
like
in.
that,
I mean, when
but-
I was doing baseball with my kids, we did raffles and raised signs and fixed fences and laid down new sod and stuff. So it did, if it's not happening still.
That doesn't
I'm
happen
surprised,
anymore.
But,
Well, I'm saying, like, maybe they increase costs to register your child to play. I
but
mean,
that's, you're paying the leagues, you're not paying the rec.
Yeah.
So we don't charge the leagues if they're supporting, I think there's a percentage of.
so go
kids
back to
that-
revenue. Maybe we charge the leagues more to use the
You're gonna
fields or
have to.
outside vendors or whatever.
You
Possibly.
have
I
to.
mean,
Well, they're not charging at all for Litchfield residents.
not
So,
each
but
team,
hold
yeah.
on though. So like, if you take a look at, and I'll pick on soccer, even though Brian's not here, they end up having a Halloween tournament. That, now granted, it goes to a good.
They charge.
Well, hold on, let me finish. So they end up charging, and that goes towards scholarships. Okay, I'm not saying that scholarships are bad, but now at this point, you know what? Especially around Halloween, now you're potentially putting damaging wear and tear on those fields, especially if you end up with a frost. And now all of a sudden I gotta pay more for, to repair that field in the spring. And meanwhile, there was no additional revenue that went to the town to make up for the additional expense that they have to pay in order to be able to repair the field from that particular tournament. Unfortunately, I agree with Doug, the leagues are going to have to pitch in. There's no two ways around it. We're at a crossroads, we're cutting as much as we can, we can't touch the public safety stuff. Sorry, recreation is a nice to have.
John, I think going back to something you said earlier, like looking for guidance from this group for your conversation on Monday. I think a pretty common theme that I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a pretty common theme that I've heard is public safety first. Like that, like that seems to be a pretty unanimous consensus of this group that that has to be our top priority when we're looking at this budget. And then when we have to start looking at ways to get under the tax cap, not just where we sit right now and the potential increases that are coming, but also conversations about warrant articles. We have to look at things that don't fall into that bucket as where we start
So let me,
and where the board of
let me
selectmen
ask
should start.
Andrew a question from a school board perspective. If we instructed the police department to not hire the SRO and take that fund and divert it, what's gonna be the outcry from the school?
I mean, I think
Because I need a patrol guy, I don't need an SRO right now. You know, we need somebody on the street, and I have our current SRO, he may have to come back off the street.
let me do this. Let me ask the question to the board on Wednesday and bring that back to you on Thursday.
But is there a concern there that was an approved warrant article?
It is approved, but again, all the positions we have are approved warrant
It's making tough
articles.
decisions.
Yeah.
Right?
But is there any
I-
legal ramification of that is mine?
That, I personally, I don't know if there's legal ramification, but, and we can figure that out.
I don't think-
Yeah, because it falls under us.
But I would be more worried about the outcry from residents and parents of students
Sure.
that see a benefit the SRO being in the school. Because, I mean, I've seen a huge difference with the current SRO that's in the school now and the interactions. My grandkids talk about them all day.
Yeah, there is a huge benefit.
There is.
That's important, so,
Agreed.
but again, if I'm looking at public safety,
Place in the school system.
my challenge is I need road people, I don't need SROs right now. I gotta fill one more road position to maintain my staff the way it is.
Prioritizing within public safety.
Well, so I guess the only thing is though, when the chief was here last week, he was talking about multiple times that, you know what, he had more officers than he had
Officer an issue, yes.
outfitted cars. So that's why this whole conversation came up of, I'm not asking to eliminate the SRO. I'm just saying that if you have an officer and you have a part-time SRO, but yet you don't have four wheels to put them in that are outfitted with a computer, you can still continue to do the SRO, because if you tried to move that person into a patrol car, you don't have a patrol car to give him that has a computer that can make sure
But
that
if
he
we-
can do the job effectively, you might as well keep him as an SRO at that
If the
point.
board instructs the police department not to hire the next two positions, to allow us to reduce the budget, then allow the warrant article to be actually fully funded and approved by the budget committee, to the vote to see unanimous, support, that's gonna have an impact on the department too. I get it, it solves the other side of the problem, yes, 100%. But again, I'm worried about public perception on the SRO being pulled. I heard rumors last time that when the default happened and we had to defer, people were saying, well, this is just retaliation because, you're messing with the school because we didn't get our way. Because some people blame, well, it's because the school was doing their thing and that's why the town lost their budget. It's not what's happening.
think
We're trying to make the tough decisions.
All right. I think we've
So I'll
got,
take it back. Yeah,
I think there's action items and follow-up questions and
What's your action item?
making
make
sure
sure,
everybody
yeah.
has their action items.
Stay on the rails.
All right. Anything else on the budget this evening? Okay. So, next week, before we begin our voting,
We got a whole bunch, yeah.
prior to next week's meeting, we will have information coming out of the school board meeting, board of selectmen meeting, that will be shared in advance, that we will once we get to the town portion of the agenda next week, we will ensure that we thoroughly review those, come back and visit insurance, and then we'll begin our voting process. Okay? Everybody good with that?
And we're gonna ask the library to be here next Thursday also.
I think that's pending what we hear back. I mean, I think that's pending what we hear back from legal. If we hear back from legal that there's nothing we can do, there's no
Yeah.
point. So I think we need that guidance.
I will try to get all these answers and talk to John so that he can get them to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can put them in that spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, Cap,
Yes.
please. That it works. Great. Any, moving into the agenda, anything else from the town this evening? Any other general updates?
Just that the last week's questions were answered, I think everybody saw it, I don't know if there was any follow-up questions, but.
Did not get any follow-up questions prior to this evening. Turning it over to the school, any updates from the school this evening?
The school board has not met since our last budget committee meeting. We are meeting next Wednesday. I did, just a quick update on school care, I did actually have a direct meeting with school care today, which was enlightening.
How's that?
Mr. Shoemaker and I, along with the superintendent, met with them directly for a Litchfield-specific session. And we did have several of our questions answered, right, wrong, or indifferent. Yeah.
Are those gonna be shared at your next school board meeting?
Yeah, we'll share an update at our next school board meeting on those for sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and Ms. Kleiner kind of alluded to it earlier, right? I mean, school care is in a world of hurt. They're insolvent at the moment. They have a 4% reserve at the moment, and they are anticipating being out of cash completely by April of next year, right? Which is why they're looking to collect approximately a total of $30 million across the 90 school districts, due by the end of this year. Otherwise, they're imposing a 5% fee that will be starting to collect in January.
I don't want to belabor this since you all haven't had your discussion, but my only question at this point in time is, I think it's great that you all connected with them. I'm probably not going to be surprised by some of the answers that they provided you when you share those. Have any of the local school districts come together and explored options? Because I know I heard at the last school board meeting that we were going to go out and explore direct with insurance companies, but have we
Yeah.
had conversations with any of those 90?
We have done that. Well, we have explored other companies, right? And that is still in process. I have directly reached out to several chairs within other districts to at least start the conversation, which has been welcomed to kind of be the point person to bring people together. And so that is in the beginning parts of the process. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's trying to solve the same problem. There's no reason to.
Yeah, and interestingly,
by
we're all
yourself.
asking kind of the same questions and have the same mindset, at least from the people I've talked to so far.
Any questions for the school this evening?
Has there either been an answer, or do you have a time frame on an answer as far as your ability to be able to go back to the,
Last year's reopen
yeah,
books.
the,
I hope to have an update on that next week. I don't know the answer to that
Okay.
quite yet.
Anything else for the school this evening? School facilities?
Haven't met, I believe we meet on Tuesday, is it the second Tuesday? Unless I missed it, Lily, but I thought it was next week. It'll be the second Tuesday.
CIP? Okay. Public
We
input?
met Monday.
Public input? Seeing no one here, I will close public input. Budget committee will meet next week, Thursday, October 16th, start our 2-week voting process, and that is it for this evening.
I said one thing for member input.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Would the board find it valuable to either have the chair or the vice chair go to the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday and articulate that public safety is this board's top priority, and then nice to have is secondary priority? Or do we feel that Mr. Brunel will deliver that message for us?
You're always more than welcome to join. We like guests if you want to come, but I'm happy to carry that message. I'm in agreement with you. It's just a struggle about where you do it, right? So I get it.
I hear what you're saying. What time do you meet on Monday?
6:30.
It's a holiday. Come join us. We'll be the only ones in the building.
The only topic on the agenda that's critical is the budget. That's all we're really focusing on.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, whether it's the Board of Selectmen or the school board, public input is usually just, I might as well just talk to the wall, and there's like zero reaction whatsoever, and then you get up and leave.
It's
But-
annoying.
No, but I think it's.
At least you know what to expect when you come to a school board meeting.
That's why no one goes.
Honestly, it is why very few people go.
But I also understand that as soon as you open up the back and forth, then it can turn into a 10-hour meeting.
Any other member input this evening? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So I made.
Motion by Ms. Douglas. Second by Mr. LaPlante. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 6-0-0. Good night, everybody.
Other than this outline here for meetings, I know I'm missing some stuff in
Well, thank
November
you.
for school, right?
I was expecting to get ripped apart at some point from my company.